Yo, how it be YouTube? Today we're going to do something a little bit different and speak about Battlefield 6 and what I hope it's going to be like. But before I get into that, I'm going to speak a little bit about my personal experience with the franchise and sort of what I've liked and what I've not liked throughout the games I've played. So to begin with, I'll just speak a little bit about when I first got into the franchise. So when I first got my Xbox 360 in 2013, when it was just going mad, Battlefield 4, the game that's being played in the background of it, was fresh off the gate, and everyone I knew at the time was planning on getting it. Obviously I missed the hype with Battlefield 3, which I knew was huge anyway. Played it from now and again from a few mates' house, but I wasn't really into the shooter genre at the time. So anyway, felt a bit of pressure from friends, I ended up getting it. It's probably one of the best modern shooters that came out in the early 2010s. It's still quite relevant today. I sometimes end up playing a few games, but yeah, it's quite impressive actually. So right off the bat, I just want you to listen to this really carefully. That was pure nostalgia to anyone who's played that game. Honestly, that is one of the most well-known sounds, like, in gaming, in my opinion at least. Well, to me at least, I could say, yeah. But yeah, anyway, so the game was pretty much unlike anything I'd ever played before at that point, and at the time was one of the best shooters around. Like, that was a 2013 game. It's kind of insane. Of course, it had a lot of competition going up against it, mainly, I'd say, Black Ops 2 and Halo Reach. Even though I think Black Ops 2 was the same age, but Halo Reach was a bit older, or quite a bit older actually. Anyway, those were the games that were basically competing for my time, I could say, back in those days. But on a real note, this game has honestly given me so many good memories to look back on. Just working in squad and just absolutely rolling over everybody in Conquest from going to point. And of course, yeah, discovering those insane sniping spots on map. I think I actually have a clip of a mate hitting a insane shot on Shanghai in 2016, so I might struggle to find the clip. My mate still might have it, based on how proud of it he was, but yeah, I'll put that in there if I can.
Are you ready for this absolute? Are you ready? Watch this, the sickest quickscope of 2016. Sure, pad, wait, I'm filming.
So as you can see, the recording isn't exactly the best quality. There's not much I can do about that, unfortunately. It's quite an old clip. I'm surprised I even managed to get it to begin with. But it's always a nice thing to have it, I guess. So what I'm trying to basically say is Battlefield 4 is the exact kind of Battlefield game people want for the next game to come, which that being Battlefield 6, not what directly came after it, in our case, like what I'm going to explain later on. Well, that's obviously my opinion, but that's how I feel about it. Basically what I'm trying to say is that my experience with that game, in particular Battlefield 4, was just amazing. They just made a really good game in the time period that was really popular and fit well. Yep, so what I was going to talk about next was Battlefield 1, but I think actually Battlefield Hardline came out first. This was a spin-off cops and robbers Battlefield that no one really asked for actually. From what I can remember about Battlefield Hardline was that there was a significant drop in graphics from Battlefield 4 going into Hardline, which seemed quite strange because Battlefield Hardline came out 2 or 3 years later after the last game. Regardless of that, it was pretty fun. And I especially remember getting kills in that game. It was extremely satisfying, maybe even more so than Battlefield 4 personally. Additionally, I also remember the gadgets in this game were really cool. I nearly forgot about them actually. So you got one of them in particular had a grappling hook that you could set from a rooftop of a building to get to a different area easily, and that actually served a decent purpose for places you couldn't get to by parachute. And I don't actually know if there was a parachute in this game, so maybe that was some sort of substitute for it. There probably was a parachute in Battlefield Hardline, as that's quite a staple of the series to have parachutes that seemingly never end. But yeah, you also got tasers and other weapons that you don't usually see in a war setting, which is most of the other games. So it was quite a nice little break from what was actually expected in Battlefield, in the Battlefield mainline series, even though it wasn't as full, but you know, it was a decent game altogether. I think I remember the story a little bit more in Battlefield Hardline than Battlefield 4 because it was a significantly different campaign experience than previous entries in the series, because it was obviously, as I said before, it was police as opposed to warfare. And I do remember I think there was less forgettable characters in the cop series, and because of just how the campaign was in Battlefield Hardline, it was completely different to how the other campaigns were, not just because of the theme, but because it was just set up differently. Like you were a detective or a cop trying to investigate some sort of crime going on. I can't really remember the details, but I do remember it being very different from the original Battlefield experience, which is always good. It's nice to see a company trying to change what they're doing and just create a maybe even better kind of experience in the campaign. But yeah, it was a nice change, a nice surprise. Right now we get into the juicy stuff. So the next game we've got in the franchise is Battlefield 1. I have mixed feelings about this game. I kind of did like it when it picked up, like when it was first released, as everyone who I initially played Battlefield 4 and Hardline with got this game as well, and that made it better in many ways. But soon after, like very soon, like a couple of months, literally soon after, I stopped playing it. I just didn't find it fun anymore. Everyone else that I knew who had bought the game had also stopped liking it and wasn't playing it anymore. So it just wasn't fun. For me, it wasn't the mainline Battlefield sequel that we wanted. It was just a meh in the end. From what I can remember though, the story was pretty decent. It was, I think it was in chapters of different mini stories from different people. I think there's one about tanks, one about some horseman riders. That's about all I can remember from it. But this game ended up leaving a really bad taste in my mouth when it came to the Battlefield franchise, as it really fell flat on its face trying to capture the nostalgia that Battlefield 4 and other games before it had made. In conclusion, this game was just sort of a shell of what the former games were, and it kind of just became the case even more so over time. Like, as more time went on, more and more people started feeling like that, I feel. I think why EA and DICE went back in time to World War I was because Call of Duty was starting to get a lot of backlash for making modern or slightly more futuristic games, and I think from what I can tell, Battlefield took that as an excuse to go back as well, and thought that they would get the same sort of backlash and that kind of thing if they continued making series in the modern setting. But I think the modern setting was fine, or would have been fine to make games for. It was more slightly in the future that was getting very unpopular. So I feel that it was a mistake on their end to go back into the World Wars and previous entries. Granted, gameplay like that in the World Wars are good games. Like, I played World at War, Call of Duty World at War, which is COD 5, so it's decades old now or something. I loved it, but I think it would have served a better purpose if this was like an offshoot game, like Battlefield Hardline for example, not the main series, because the main series has always been modern, or modern for the time, and I just feel that if they would have stuck with the thing that's made their series stick out so much, then the Battlefield games wouldn't have lost popularity as much as they did over the last 5 years or something or other. But that's basically all I've got to say about Battlefield 1. It was a bit of a disappointment in the end, unfortunately. I will add though, the gunplay, because obviously like shooting guns and everything, was a lot satisfying. I feel that they have improved on that aspect in terms of how the gun shoots and everything. So that's one thing they did well, I'll give them that. But once again, I would have preferred a modern setting, so it just kind of ruined it for me, I think. Yep, and here we go, further down the rabbit hole. So it's still probably got to get worse from here, because now we're moving on to Battlefield 5. as I've kind of already alluded to in the Battlefield 1 segment of the video, I didn't actually get this game. Because I was just so disappointed in what the other games had been. So I thought I'd give it a skip because I didn't really want to waste my money on it. But to be honest, I wasn't really into the shooter genre anymore. By that time I just sort of started playing games that weren't so as competitive almost, or just, you know, but I don't know, maybe I'm just mistaken in that case, I don't know really. Let's just say, to begin with, on Battlefield 5, I'm kind of glad I didn't get this, as I believe loot boxes, other kind of scummy tactics used by games companies, were quite forced actually into this game at the beginning. This especially was bad because I believe this was literally coming off the Battlefront 2 scandal, which was really, really bad. What makes it worse, it had been the same company, EA, who had foreseen this, so it's almost like EA just were in such a bad position this time. Like, probably the worst opinion on them since ever really, I guess. But I just don't really understand why EA thought after the Battlefront 2 controversy that they'd introduce the same kind of tactics into Battlefield 5. It didn't work, and it didn't really go over well with customers at all, because they were starting to really catch on, and actually EA was starting to get a lot of backlash from what I can remember. But with all the controversy and everything else, in my opinion, it didn't capture the interest of fans very well at all. Well, I say fans, but I'd probably say me specifically there, because I know a lot of people who are hardcore Battlefield fans that still got Battlefield 5. And from what other videos I've seen, now it's playable, similar to how Battlefront 2 is playable now. I'm still kind of glad I gave it a pass, because sometimes you can't really just, I don't know, I didn't want it. I wasn't really interested in it. So I'm glad I didn't go through with it in the end. But I'll try and find a video of somebody else talking about Battlefield 5 and its issues and whatnot, and I'll leave that in the description or something if I can find it, if I remember to. But yeah, that's basically all I've got to say about Battlefield 5. There's probably one more thing I can say actually, is it probably introduced Firestorm, which was sort of Battlefield's attempt at a battle royale, because every game that's a shooter has to have a battle royale. Apparently that's a rule at the moment. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed that all these games are sort of coming up with this now, because it's just a cheap way of getting money off people and getting interest. And I feel very strongly that kind of genre has been extremely overused, and it's sort of going through a phase of it's kind of in the life cycle of being like just overused, and people are going to start losing interest in it. And like, there's so many games now that have been released in that category that I just feel like there's not enough differentiation between them, so it's just kind of a bunch of garbage just thrown. That's my opinion, I guess, because obviously there's going to be some little bits in different battle royale games that are different to everyone else, but I'm just not interested in that kind of. I think most people who play games like that aren't really interested in that kind of gaming experience anymore. From what I know, Firestorm was quite a success at the time, not as big as obviously like Fortnite and Warzone and whatnot now, but it's just, I just hope they don't have to force it into Battlefield 6. I feel like they'd just be overdoing it, and maybe not focus in an area of gaming that's dying, because games shouldn't be looking to compete in that market anymore. Maybe I'm just not in the industry, so I don't know, but that's from a customer's perspective, I guess. Rightio, and here we finally get on the topic of today's video, Battlefield 6. I feel like EA and DICE have learned from their recent mistakes, and this will hopefully push them to making amazing games such as Battlefield 4. But I guess we'll only truly know when more information gets released by a trailer or news article or whatever. Since Battlefield 6 is meant to be released between April 2021 and March 2022, that'll be a long time away. So before we begin properly, I'd just like to start with the fact that there has been a teaser that has dropped probably about a month ago now, and I'll play that for you quickly right now.
Generation shifts are an opportunity to push beyond the boundaries of gaming as we know it today, and this time is no different.
Alright, so it's only a teaser to begin with, so all we can really get is that they're pushing graphics beyond what really anyone's ever known, apparently. And that maybe the scale of battles are slightly bigger, and obviously, as I said, as showing the destructible environments and some sort of grenade smoke at the beginning. So, as he'd say, it's predominantly graphics, and the size of battles doesn't really show much of what the time period's going to be either. I think Jack Frags has gone over a decent video talking about that, so I will put that in the description if I remember to. So Battlefield 6 will only be released on next-gen consoles, which is a good thing, because that means they're shooting for a extremely top-tier game, so they're not working on a product that's for only current gen right now and next gen, meaning that if they're only working towards next gen, then that's probably going to be of a higher quality in terms of graphics and other kind of things like that. So this is kind of surprising on EA's part, because I would have expected them to release it on both gens, current gen and next gen, so that they could get a quick bit of money coming in from the current gen just as it's about to end, and then charge the same people again if they're going to get a next gen console. But I think with the controversies they've had over the past 5 years or so, I think they decided to not do that and make a better game. I would hope that'd be the case anyway. Because it's been so long, I would probably assume that they're taking a break from mass producing Battlefield games, just because I think they took an extra year than they were supposed to, which is good, because that just hopefully means the quality will be up. And I think quality is everything that people are wanting now. So as I said before, that teaser that they dropped doesn't suggest in any capacity what time period Battlefield will be set in. I just hope it's going to be in the modern setting where Battlefield 4 is, because, as I said, that's where their roots came from. So if they go there, I think people would be more than willing to give them a chance again, or be just happier in general. I think that's basically all I want from it, and it's a huge factor which I think will definitely tilt and trigger the interest of fans in the Battlefield series again. But maybe that's just me. Yeah. The issue with this is that I think they're going to follow Call of Duty's Modern Warfare of last year and continue making a Battle Royale game mode, which I feel, as I've already said in this video, is too far played out. There just needs to be less because it's oversaturated. But because it's still popular, I assume they'll still make some sort of Battle Royale game mode. I don't know, maybe by that time it won't be as popular and they'll cut it out, but I haven't got high hopes of that. One thing I am worried about this game is that just because it's only going to be on next gen, that doesn't necessarily mean that the game is going to be extremely innovative. It could just mean they're going to bring the graphics and focus on elements like that, but they're going to propel them to incredible heights, which from that teaser it kind of suggests that they've done. Obviously we don't know what else they've done in that regard except make things bigger, like go from 64 player battles to 128 for example. I don't think they can really do much in terms of innovation, in terms of making things bigger anyway. The only other thing they could do is probably drastically improve the realism into their destructible environments, and maybe tune up the vehicle handling, because I can't really remember how the vehicle handling is in more modern games. With Battlefield 4 I know it's a bit clunky, especially in faster cars and whatnot. Tanks were okay, but I never even step much into helicopters and planes because I can't do it. I'm a console player, so not very good at that. The reason I say about those two main facts about the destructive environments and vehicle handling is because they are, in my opinion, the biggest and most outstanding features to the Battlefield IP and franchise in general. I'm also hoping for less extortionate tactics used on their fans, which I don't think they'll have the balls to do that anymore. If anything, they could do the cosmetics things that everyone's been doing and just focus the paying things more on cosmetics and stuff. However, I'm still against that, because if it's in a grittier war setting, Where's the place for flashy cosmetics and camouflages, like in Call of Duty and Fortnite and whatnot? It just, maybe for those types of games it works, but if it's more grounded, realistic combat, I don't think that they can really monetize that in the same way that other games do. Who knows really what they're going to do, because there's not really any other extra monetization options that they can use in that sense. I would probably expect some sort of battle pass where you pay so much a month and you get bonuses for playing through. So it's like it's a balance between paying for things and working in game for them, which is working very well, as you can see. Who did it first? Was it Fortnite? I think Fortnite did introduce it. But now, like, Red Dead Redemption does it in every DLC they release. Rocket League does it, as I've recently found out. So it's quite a popular thing. I'm kind of on the fence here. If they were to do a story, I'd love it to be, like, iconic and really push the game into a legendary status. But if they were to not do a story campaign and focus primarily on the online, which Battlefield is most known for, I feel that it could just be as successful as if they put a campaign in. Because if they were to put a campaign in, it would need to be like something special. It couldn't just be like another random story with forgettable characters, as I just don't think there's room for that on the market anymore, personally. So effectively, I'd say I'm cautiously excited for the next entry of Battlefield. Since it's only about a year and a bit away, I'm sure we'll hear more as time gets closer to that, but at the same time, you're probably not going to hear anything for another half a year, or anything of significance for another half a year, probably more. But yeah, I'm just kind of hoping, and I probably will end up getting Battlefield 6. Well, it kind of depends on what the trailers show, because if they stay in World War II, or just maybe like the 60s wars and whatnot, maybe, because that could be interesting. But if it's modern, as I clearly am pushing, I would probably get it if I do end up getting a next gen console, that is. Oh yeah, I'd just like to say at the end, I of course know just how big Battlefield 3 and the Bad Company games were, and they were really good in their own right. But because this is kind of my personal experience to the Battlefield franchise, as I didn't really experience these games, I think I got Bad Company 2 for free on Xbox 360, but I never really played it, especially in its heyday, of course. But regardless of that, I'm sure someone who has played those games only feels even more strongly in hoping that Battlefield 6 lives up to the franchise's name and just makes the games better in general, really, because obviously they're even more like dedicated to the franchise because they've been there for longer, if that makes sense. Right, so guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today. I very much enjoyed making this video. It's just something that I wouldn't usually do. And I hope to make more of these kind of videos along with all the other gaming videos that I usually make. But yep, that's all from me today. Please give this video a like, subscribe and turn the notification bell on so you know when I'm going to upload a new video. Comment if you've got an opinion on this, because I understand that this video is very opinionated from my point of view. And while I do believe most people believe this kind of way forward, as in what they want from the game, there's obviously differences, so if anyone watches this, just let me know what you guys think in the comments. Yeah, that's all for me today, and I'll see you in the next one.